Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Leven Show. This is new. This is new, right? We're going by the Leven Show, no longer the Leven Podcast. It is still essentially the same thing, though, so don't worry. For the people listening on YouTube, we got some new graphics. If you're on Twitch, we obviously got some new clean graphics. For the people listening on Spotify, do not worry. Do not worry. Things are still going to be great. Things are still going to be. It's going to be a great listening experience for you guys. So don't worry too much about that. What I will say though is that there's going to be a bit more editing. So obviously, where I'm doing the Twitch show live, there's going to be times where I need to stop to get in guests and whatnot. But I will cut that out for you guys so that you guys have like a clean viewing experience or listening experience, I should say, if you're listening on Spotify and Apple. But I'm looking forward to this year's podcast, man. I got a bunch of cool little segments I want to do. I got a bunch of people I want to get on as guests. If you wanna see someone on the podcast, let me know. Tweet at me. Tweet hashtag the Leven Show. If you any opinion that you have about the pod, if you enjoy the pod, tweet hashtag the Leven Show. And I'm in future episodes, I'll be sure to feature some people's tweets on the show as well for people watching the live show and on YouTube. But we're gonna get right into things. I got Monsterdface joining me right about now, so we're gonna get Monster in, and then we're gonna get Monster in, then we'll get right away for you. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Monster, how you doing, bro?
Yo, chilling, man. I've been good, trying to keep busy, trying
Yeah,
to do what we do, bro.
yeah, man. You've been out here. You've been about. Obviously, you've had you had Pack South recently, right? Tell me a bit more about that.
Yo, man, Pac South. So I want to say that was like the first land that I feel like I've casted in so long,
Yeah,
right? And although it was just what some people might think as an amateur tournament, man, it really meant the world to me to just be in that setting again, right? Seeing people root on for their friends and family, and it was a dope show, man. I honestly think I casted one of the best solo comebacks like ever, and it was only a 2 game kind of final format.
yeah. Yeah, that's something that we're probably gonna end up having to talk about, right? Because I feel like I feel like there was a lack of coverage for that event. I think a lot of people probably weren't even aware of what was going on. I think a lot of people didn't even see much of what's going on to this point now. Obviously, everything I saw was from either you or Bala on Twitter, and it seemed like it was a great event. Like I know you had a really cool storyline of some guy who was popping off, right? He was dominating, and it's like you said, it's great to see these things, man. Land events are always a great thing, and obviously you always do such a great job of casting them. So hopefully we can see more kind of promotion when it comes to these things and more kind of broadcasts and whatnot.
No, 100%, man. It was almost like a shame, and me and Ball are talking about. It's like, dang, it's a shame that only the real nitty gritty, like small percent of the Fortnite community is gonna care about this. That really wants to see, any level of competition. Because it was such a fantastic show. It was such a great show. And it was a full on qualifier. You had to play Friday, and then Friday, the top, I guess, 10 in the heat moved on to Saturday. They had to play Saturday, they had to play Sunday, and then Sunday they had to play again for the finals. So
Uh-huh.
they were really, yeah, they went through like, quite the gauntlet per se, just to get down to the last like 50 or so members that were aired on the finals day. And I gotta say, by the way, a 50-man solo game, it was so good. It was so much better than what I was expecting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because everyone was able to just get fully kitted, get comfortable, and take the battles that they wanted.
It's interesting you say that, right? Because back a long time ago, like I always hate talking about the old EU pro scene days because it makes me like people think I'm like just trying to be obnoxious or whatnot. But back in like the old days of competitive EU, we had squads, right? That was the main game that people were playing because we assumed that competitive would start with squads. So we played squads, but we'd never play a full lobby, and mainly because the servers couldn't handle it, right? Like back then, it was terrible. Imagine 80 people alive in endgame, impossible. Like the server would actually just lag out back then in most cases. So we obviously we'd have like 60-man lobbies, and it was great. Like people loved it, and we started transitioning to bigger lobbies. And I think I've seen, I'm not sure how many people Apex have. I think Apex have like 60 or so people in the lobby. Obviously, it's a different
Yeah,
game or whatnot, but
it's basically like 60 or so players,
yeah,
and their format is only trios, basically, for competitive.
yeah. So I've always been a fan of smaller lobbies. But yeah, that's interesting. You said that obviously there's a couple more LAN events coming up, right? We have AO. I think you recently announced that you're gonna be casting some Twitch Rivals Pro Bowl stuff, or you want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's coming up. We'll be in Miami pretty much next week. By the time I guess the listeners hear this, look out for twitch.tv/ I think Twitch or Twitch Rivals. Regardless of what, we'll be doing the Super Bowl Streamer Bowl, which is I mean, it's gonna be crazy because just another time where we get to kick it with some of the top tier competitors on the scene, and maybe meet some celebrities in the process. So
Oh,
should
that's
be a
gonna
good
be
time,
sick.
right? Should
That's
be a
gonna
good
be
time.
so. Are you a big football fan then?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up as a teenager. I played football, so it's one of the sports that I definitely appreciate. And honestly, I'm a sports enthusiast. I like watching UFC,
Yeah.
boxing, and all the sorts. So when it comes down to action sports, I'm all about it.
That's crazy, right? Because obviously you are someone who's been in a position where, like, I wanted to ask, like, do you get like starstruck? But obviously, it's a bit weird because you've obviously been casting so many events and you've been at World Cup and whatnot. So you've met people like Ninja and whatnot. Like, so you've met people
Yeah.
who, in our community at least, are considered mega stars. But like,
Oh yeah.
do you feel like you're gonna get like the same kind of nerves maybe when meeting some of these pro athletes?
So I don't get like the nerves or anything, but
Yeah.
starstruck is real, man. Like
Yeah.
the pro-am, for example, I got to meet Brendan Urie from Panic at the Disco. Like I grew up listening to his music, right?
Yeah.
Like literally, and he's just standing there like hanging out, and he likes Fortnite. Like it's so weird.
Yeah.
And even Ninja, my first experience with Ninja was like super cool because I walk up and I'm like, hey, I just can't not introduce myself to you, that because you're here, like I have to say what's up, you know what I mean? So I said, I extended my hand out. I'm like, I'm Monster. He was like, don't even tell me. So I recognize that voice anywhere. And that was like trippy because yeah, he was like, what are you, crazy? You trying to tell me who you are? He literally said out of his own mouth, he's like, I recognize that voice anywhere. And then he gave me a big hug, and it was crazy, man. So yeah, meeting some of these like celebrities, some of these star profiles, it's definitely cool. It's crazy. And the way I feel sometimes, yeah, I'm a fan too, man. Like when I introduced myself to Ninja, I was just like, dude, I have to like go out there and introduce myself. Like I'm a fan of your work. You know what I mean? So it's awesome.
Oh man, that's so crazy to me. Like, hopefully one day I get to meet people that kind of gifted me that same kind of starstruck effect. Um, you obviously been doing some great work. Obviously, I've taken a lot of inspiration from what you and Too Loud have been doing over on the Fortnite podcast. You guys have been going for a while, man. Like I didn't actually realize you guys have been podcasting for a good time, like a good amount of time. You recently reached a milestone. What was it? Was it like the 100th episode?
Yeah, we hit our 100th episode.
Yeah.
And we got a special guest to hop on, Dr. Lupo,
Oh, yeah,
which was, I really love people like Lupo, and a lot of our Fortnite communities just keeps it so authentic. They're so real. And yeah, he's a good friend of mine. So when I hit him up, he didn't even bat an eye. He was like, "What time do you need me and where?" And I was like, "Let's go, man." So yeah, big thank you to him. But yeah, we've been doing it for a while, man, since Fortnite was basically released. And you understand. I'm sure you have a great respect for the grind that it takes to stay consistent with these things, because balancing, as you can imagine, life and then trying to keep a show going it's not easy. It's really not that easy.
Oh, it gets rough, man. There's been times where I've had stretches where I just don't put out a podcast, and I get people like people who really enjoy it will be messaging me like, "Hey, dude, where's the podcast at?" And I'm like, just life's hard right now, man. Life is hard. I want to get into one of the main topics of focus right now within the Fortnite competitive scene, and just the Fortnite community in general. So obviously Epic announced yesterday, they put out a kind of statement to give us some insight into what's going on, right? Obviously the season has stretched out for quite a while, and obviously people were kind of questioning what's going on. There was a lot of speculation going on, and to be fair, after this announcement there's only more speculation going on anyway. But it was good to get some clarity of what's going on. And Epic essentially announced that things have been taking a while just because they plan on switching the physics engine that the game currently runs on onto a newer one that is still made by them, of course, but it's just a newer physics engine. And they're going to be switching over to that. You made a video about it. I suggest everybody listening right now go check out our YouTube video. You put out a YouTube video to kind of give some more insight and show some of the community feedback towards the post. How did you what was your reaction to it when you first saw it? Where were you when you even first read the announcement?
And we're talking about the Chaos Engine introduction, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my first reaction was I was excited because Fortnite's been dormant for so long. We understand that they've been in this bit of a slum, right? They've been working on some big projects. Everyone thought the big project might have been, the reason they've been so quiet is preparation for the Star Wars event. But it just shows you that they're working on something so much larger. They're trying to or integrate a whole new interface, right, or system. And we saw what happened with the last one they did, the Black Hole event, right? Took down the servers for like days, literally. So we understand that the magnitude of what they're trying to do is kind of large. With that being said, I was excited when they launched it, man. I know there's a lot of nerves, right, when it comes around to change and something new, but I think Fortnite needs it, man. The game has been in a place to where I think we all can genuinely say has been pretty darn good, all things considering, with the content and all that stuff. Yes, the headaches come along, but we're at a point to where I think a lot of us are ready for something fresh and something new. The new map was a step in the right direction,
100%.
But I think with a new feel to the game, this new engine, I really think the game is no longer going to be a build up kind of battle all the time. I really genuinely think you're going to be able to destroy the environment and maybe go down or like create trenches or something like that. At least that's what I think when they say they're going to bring in this new kind of engine that reshapes the world. Because if you look at the wording, they said they still want it to feel like Fortnite. That's the main and most important thing. So building's still going to be there, that whole fast action pace. But I think they're going to make it so that it's no longer a linear, just like build and box. Like you can do different things. So I'm excited. I'm excited for the change, and I know the game's going to look different, and that excites me as well.
Yeah, I think initially there was a bunch of speculation going on. There was a bunch of, I wouldn't say panic, but just a bunch of people kind of getting excited, right? One of I love Jerian, but Jerian put out some tweets that kind of provoked the community to kind of
don't do that, Jerry. What's wrong with you, man?
But I see, what initially, right? I don't think his initial tweets were that bad, but it's just the way the community reacts to it. And I think knowing how our community is, we should have expected it. But he kind of talked about how the key features of the physics engine could allow for potential for certain things to happen, and obviously people started responding to that specifically. And to be fair, a lot of people were treating it like it was fact, which it's not. But I was thinking like there's a lot of things that could potentially change with a new physics engine. A lot of things in this game are affected by physics. My biggest concern though, right, would be if let's say they bring out this new engine and I log onto Fortnite and it just doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel, people love Fortnite because of how responsive it is. You log into creative, you come on, you do your free builds, it feels quick, it feels fast, it feels, just the feel to the game itself. People value that a lot, right? And I'd hate to see a position where something like that just isn't the same, and the community just responds so negatively to that. Because it's really hit or miss, right? Like this is, I believe in Epic, but this, is pretty hit or miss.
No, we could talk about that because look at what happened with H1Z1.
Yeah.
Season 3, they're up until season 3, season 4, their game felt a certain way. And then come season 5, they changed the movement and they wanted it to feel more like your character felt more heavy. And suddenly the game felt slower and people hated that. And it wasn't until the entire game crashed and burned that they reverted, literally went back to season 3, whatever state of the game that was in, just to bring back the movement. So I'm sure Fortnite has some of the sharpest minds in the world working at, Epic Games, I should say. They have some of the sharpest minds in the world, man. They have to recognize that certain things have to feel the same. The speed at which your character moves, and all that kind of stuff is important. That's one of the big reasons behind the FOV scaling. I don't know if you remember this, but if you played with stretched res back in the day, when you went back to normal res, the game felt slow. Like your character literally felt like he was moving slower, but it's not. It's like, it's just like a placebo thing. I'm sure they understand that too. Like changing FOV or the way the game feels will affect like everyone, like almost like a domino effect. It's one thing after the other after the other. So I hope that they don't slow down the pace of the game to where it feels weird. They kind of already did that if you really think about it with the limited mobility and stuff. And they got backlash in the past for integrating something like redeploy system 24/7. When they took away the redeploy system, again, we got in that same slum where, dang, the game feels so slow again. So I think they understand the how complex it is when you mess with that placebo of movement, right? And when a game feels fast and you make it slower, it's so bad.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that front. And I think one thing that a lot of people don't actually realize, right? Lord forgive me for forgetting who it was that I spoke to about this, right? But somebody who has a lot of insight and has, a lot of connections with people who work at Epic and work on the back end of things, talked to me once about how Epic were designed the game in a way where they were not expecting Fortnite to become the biggest game that's ever come out ever, right? They were not expecting it to be as big and to have to handle as many people. And simply, as great as the Unreal Engine is, right? I think they were not ready for it to be as big as for Fortnite to be as big as it was. And with that in mind, they've done such an amazing job of working and making sure the servers are able to handle certain capacities of players, to handle certain things that happen within the game, like people take for granted we can actually have end games right now where you have like 60 people alive at 50-50 zone. And it probably will be a bit laggy, but that back in season 3 or so, the server's crashing, everyone's getting kicked out. Like, there's no chance you're going to be able to even play with that. So I do have belief, like you said, Epic have some of the best, developers in all of the gaming industry. And when it comes to engines, it's their thing, right? Like, they are the makers of the Unreal Engine. Like, these kind of things are right up their alley. So
and think about it, they know their engine better than anyone, right? Like, you have the people that are creating this engine and building Fortnite alongside of it. So without a doubt, I'm sure they're going to introduce something really dope, and it's going to be, I guess, maybe the fresh breath of life Fortnite needs for us content creators too, man, because we were spoiled for so long, right? Just getting all these updates, getting all these changes. I don't know if you've been keeping up with the content side of things, but a lot of content creators are slowing down. It went from weekly uploads or bi-weekly or whatever, right? It's literally half the output for so many people. I mean, look at what's hot right now. Fortnite fashion shows. Like, how garbage is that, right? Like I mean, and that's just me, dude. I personally, bro, you look down the Fortnite category on Twitch, and it's sad, bro. Half of the titles, people are trying to get views for a fashion show. I'm like, what is this?
Like, I agree with that. Like, this is something I highlighted recently as well, and I was like, hey, as much as I respect all the content creators, because Fortnite blew up because of content creators. Simply, like, just look at the start of the game, the trajectory, the way people played it, the streamers, the highlights. Even if you think back to all those old days, like seeing clips of like Mr. Grimm's or Ninja like sniping someone across the map or something. Like, I remember I saw a video recently that you were actually in, where you were popping off in like Retail Row or something. Like, just the OG days of like Fortnite and content creation are what made this game great. I thought, hey, look, if content creation the way it is now isn't working as well, right? People are starting to slow down. I was thinking, hey, maybe we got to start pushing competitive content creation, right? We want to see more things like the Fortnite podcast, like Hotline FN and Somebodysgun, who I'm about to have on. He does some great content on his YouTube channel. Just any form of content creation, we need to kind of push for that, right? Because that is one of the key parts of sustaining a player base. And like you said, seeing things like Fortnite fashion shows, sadly seeing things like wagers, like when I see like the top 20 people just playing wagers or doing a fashion show, I'm like, I'm not watching Fortnite today. Like, I'm just not going to be watching Fortnite today. And,
it's boring to me. I know, and there's a lot of people out there that like it. So if you're one of the listeners that like listening or watching Fortnite fashion shows, hey, you do you, man. But
you're too nice. I hate that shit. If you watch that shit, like, that shit is so trash. Like, it's so bad.
Man, like, it's whatever. I'm not gonna knock anyone's entertainment aspect, because it is what it is. But I just feel like the game shouldn't be in this point. And honestly, talking about like just getting behind good content and competitive content, the Reddit competitive doesn't help either, bro. All they want to do is bandwagon the hottest profiles, the best names, instead of pushing like actual good content and great creators. The amount of times I've put like 8 to 10 to 12 hours into a competitive guide, thrown it up there, and then watched it get like slapped down or not shown any love is straight trash, bro. Because the moment I bring in a dope ass feature or I'm hot again, everyone wants to share my work again. So it's the same thing. It's all a bunch of hypocrites, man, that don't really know how to stand behind people that they like and want to push genuine content, bro. So the community is just as guilty as the lack of success behind all of our competitive content creators, bro. And it's not just Epic, it's not just the game, it's the community too, bro. They got to jump off the bandwagon straight up.
Honestly, bro, I'm so happy you said this, because this is something that like so many people don't understand. My personal experiences with Reddit are terrible. Like and it's sad because I know the people who run like the comp Reddit, and the people who run the comp Reddit are great people, some nice people, some great minds. But the people on the Reddit itself are trash. Like you will make such a quality post and they will just downvote because they don't agree or like they don't.
But that's what I'm saying. Like sometimes like you get the right people to back you and everything goes right. But then half the other times, bro, it's just a bandwagon fest and they really just don't push what's proper, man. Like, oh man, there was plenty of times where, the Reddit competitive has just these trashy like tweet posts up there that don't make any sense. Like, and I'll use an example. Like there was a time where I went on there. It was like Tim the Tatman on a public kit was like the front page of Reddit competitive. I'm like, Tim the Tatman is a public normal playlist player. What the heck is this? Like, how does this make it up here? Why are people standing behind this shirt? You know what I mean? And it's nothing against him or the content he makes. I love these people and they're great. They're successful for a reason. We're just talking about the type of content the community stands behind sometimes or chooses to promote.
Yeah.
And to be fair, the Reddit, I got mad love for them because they support everything we do on the T1, right? Scrims front, the practice server Scrims front, which I help manage and operate all that stuff. So we're doing so much more than just making videos, right? We're like the infrastructure. Dudes gotta continue to show appreciation so we could be successful.
I find it's interesting that you highlighted that, right? Because as much as, it's up to the community to kind of work on those things, how much weight do you hold in players actually being responsible for sustaining the ecosystem in which provides them a living? Because frankly, this problem's actually happening in Counter-Strike in kind of a different way, right? I don't know how much you know about the CSGO scene, but in Counter-Strike, player contracts are so inflated right now. Like the scene in general, like tournament organizers, most of them are operating at a loss. It's just not sustainable right now, and people are putting a lot of pressure on pro players to start providing more content to help build up the scene from the roots, rather than just obviously they are pro players. It's, at the end of the day, they are down to just play professionally and win and compete. But there's a responsibility there for them to promote these organizers, to promote content and do things like that. And I feel the exact same way about Fortnite. I feel like I've experienced events, right? Like I had the pleasure of casting the War Legends Series Invitational a couple months back, and the players didn't help much in promoting it, where we said, people, you got to stream it, you got to promote it to help us, because we're doing this so that Epic sees that third-party organizers can make good use of their resources, and players did not help much at all. And I put a strong weight on players being able to kind of help build up this big ecosystem and make the comp scene a great scene to operate in.
The only way people like yourself, myself, and the others around us that make content are going to thrive and be successful is when other content creators back your work. It's the only way it's going to hit new eyes. It's the only way you're going to, break the threshold of having more people stand behind you. And it sucks that you need to kind of, have a strong network and infrastructure to stay successful, especially when you're talking about like Twitter or, Instagram. Like you genuinely need these people to back you. So you're not far from wrong when you say this, very fragile ecosystem that we kind of depend on is based around the competitive players and the pros themselves. And I'm not even talking about the fact that half of them don't make content or really, put any effort into trying to run any kind of project of any sorts other than just playing. I'm just talking like just sharing, right? Getting the word out there and doing that kind of stuff. Because otherwise there wouldn't be a way for our voices to be heard.
Oh, 100%, man. 100%. Yeah, that is a large conversation to be had, and hopefully we can see things like that be improved and worked on. I wanna get onto a little segment I wanted to do with you, man. Like I
Yeah.
so I have like a couple ideas for different segments that I've done with different people, right? Obviously, I have my mailbag that I do. Obviously, I've answered questions from the mailbag with Bala in the past and with a couple other people. I also have like an over and under thing that I do. I usually do it when I have Speedy Gonzalez on the podcast. You know Speedy. Whenever there's an event, we do over and under. But I thought, hey, let me open up this new one for you. You can debut this one on the pod. So I tweeted out a couple of days ago. I tweeted out, DM me your unpopular opinions. I'll tweet out a few. Let's see what people feel. Obviously, you might not want to tweet out. You might not have the reach for anyone to even see it. And I don't have much reach, but I'll at least tweet it out and we can see what people think about your opinion. I had a bunch of people. I was not expecting that many people to kind of send me their opinions. I tweeted some out. Some got some good reception, some didn't. I'm going to roll through some of them. I want to get your opinion. See if you agree or disagree.
So I'm going to give my hot take on their unpopular opinion.
Yes.
I bet.
Yes.
Let's go.
All right. So the first one I posted was unpopular opinion. There shouldn't be an FOV slider. Fortnite is more fair without it. Agree or disagree, Monster?
I disagree. I think players should have the option and the ability to play to their comfort. And yeah, if it was like that, I think we'd have more of a skill gap because people get, like I said, get comfortable. Yeah. So where I see where they're coming from, I think they're completely wrong because everyone or every device can totally handle FOV. So I think you're wrong.
I like that. I think that's a fair take. I definitely am a fan of being able to give people the freedom to feel comfortable.
That's like saying every person should have the same sensitivity. Are you out of your mind? You know what I mean? That guy's crazy. It doesn't make sense. That's like saying all your brothers should have the same name. For what? I'm just gonna be confused. I'm never gonna know who's who. So no, we need FOV sliders.
Nah, 100%. Nah, I think that's a fair take because I think it's not. I don't think it's fair for us to say that we should all just have the same because it makes it fair. Like you should be able to feel comfortable within the game. Simple as, right? So yeah, this is the next one. The next one that I will ask you is: Season 9 was the best season for Fortnite. The meta was insane and the map was at its best. This one, a lot of people agreed with. Like a lot of people agreed with this. Do you remember much of Season 9? I sometimes get like all the seasons blurred in my head. Like I don't know what season it is.
This sounds like Baller season because Season 10 was Mech season.
Yeah.
So right before Mechs, we had Ballers. Was Season 9 the best season in the game? I think mobility was at it was near peak. We were just shy of the introduction of slipstreams. Season 9 was a good season. I think the prime of the map happened before the slipstreams though. Personally, I like the slips, but I didn't like the way that the center of the map was just a crap fest, man. People were way too easy to land on you in third party and whatnot, and I think that took away from the experience a little bit. So I would go just prior to slipstreams being introduced to the game. I think that was the best map that this game ever introduced. Yeah. Outside of that though, I mean, I don't hate the game right now where the map is. I think the reason a lot of us aren't attached to the current map is because we don't have the launch pads to really just take in the world, right? We're just now getting comfortable where players rotate through and all that good stuff. And the one difference in the current map compared to the old one, the reason people like the old map, those high mountains that we all hate when end games ended on, were the reason why you knew exactly where players are going to funnel through. Those same exact valleys you know what I mean? Those same exact valleys that we hate at those end games where you had to go up those mountains, those are the same places where you knew you were going to find players. So people love the old map because it was almost predictable. Your rotations, everything was so predictable. This new map is a lot more is a lot harder to take in. It's a little bit more flat, right? So players can be anywhere.
Yeah, definitely agree. Obviously, people in the chat have made me aware that was World Cup season. And I know for a fact, just in general, that was just such an amazing time in terms of the comp scene because everyone was enjoying it, everyone was making money, everyone was hyped for the World Cup. So I think in general, right, that was just a great time in Fortnite. But I do agree with you, man. People, once we don't have this season anymore, let's say Epic, turn things around and make big changes, people are going to miss this season. People are going to regret, not appreciate the season for what it was, man, because this, really and truly, this is like the first season in so long where we don't have much to complain about. Like, we really don't have much to complain about when it comes to the actual game, the map, etc. People just being nitpicky, in my opinion. So,
Yeah, I mean, think about how we lived through the entire first half of Fortnite with everyone crying about shotguns. You don't see shotgun posts up on Reddit anymore, like, "Oh, I hit a blank," or
Yeah,
"Oh
yeah,
my gosh, where was my pump shot?" You know what I
yeah,
mean? They've really found a proper level of balance as far as the gunplay goes in Fortnite. If anything, everyone's nitpicking the lack of new stuff right now, which yo, man, this next season, oh, I hope it's gonna be a banger. I hope we get this map change, this chaos engine. It better be fire, bro. Like I'm
yeah,
telling you, this next season could be such a dope one if they just subtly introduce like just tweak the map, give us a new feel to the game, but
yeah.
don't break the movement and stuff. Like man, this next season could be so fire. I'm excited.
And really split the pools so that we can at least test things before they come in. 'Cause I know people were saying like the pools are split, but then there was like side grading that went straight into comp and weird things like that. So let's see how they handle it. I've definitely, like you said, I've definitely been more impressed with the way they've done things, and if they can subtly start to add new things, that'd be exciting. Next one.
Well, whoever, well,
Keep
just
going.
one thing I want to touch on for the competitive stuff. Whoever's telling the players or the the developers what to activate in comp, he's doing a great job because they brought harpoons also into comp. Let's not forget that without asking anyone, and it fit in. Just the same way they did side grading, and it fit in. So far they've been spot on with the small changes they've made to comp while keeping the pools separate. So whoever's spearheading that, as long as he continues to use his good judgment and keep it balanced, I think comp is going to stay in a good place.
All right, I like that take. Next one, removing jump fatigue in game would advance the building meta and increase the skill gap. Agree or disagree?
I mean, I could see where it would definitely change the way building works, but no, we don't need to give these creative warriors more reasons to infinite 90. Like,
No,
no,
I get you. I get you.
keep jump fatigue, dude.
I think I found that one an interesting one because that's something I never actually thought about. Right, I never thought about how would that affect things in game. And obviously, the first thing that goes to mind is like the creative warriors. But I was thinking there might be something just simple that happens in comp games regularly that would just be so different if you had jump fatigue. Obviously, the main thing I just think of is just cranking for height, right? Like people just wouldn't stop. There'd be no difficulty in doing it. And like you said, I don't think we should be giving these creative grinders even more reason. I don't know though. I think it could be interesting, right, down the road maybe, but at the same time, right now I don't think it's needed. Like I feel like a lot of people always want things that just right now aren't really needed, and I don't think that's something that's necessarily needed right now. What's the next one? What's the next one I want to give you? Okay, next one I want to give you. Heavy sniper doesn't need to be removed. Every competitive shooter has a one-shot sniper, and it shouldn't be different now because you get unlucky. Agree or disagree?
No way. Heavy sniper needs to stay out the game. I love the idea of having something that could break into boxes like the heavy sniper, but no way. Its shields are way too hard to come across, let alone sustain. The body damage is ridiculous on that bad boy. And this game does have a one shot. It's the burst rifle if you have all three headshots, and it's the snipers. The snipers can hit headshots. So to be fair, we do have it. So
Yeah, I like this one. Tim McD from Hotline FN, he had a great response to this that I'll read out. He said, hard disagree. Fortnite isn't a competitive shooter. And even if it was, well, they have one, has never been a good reason for anything, which is true. Well, they have one, we should have one. I don't think that's good reasoning. I didn't really like that take too much. But yeah, I think we'll probably do one or two more. Then I'll let you go. I know you're a busy guy. So which one's interesting? There should be mobility in solos and mat cap change for solos. Example 750, 750, 750. Agree or disagree?
I think we've all gotten comfortable with the mat cap right now. If you increase it anymore, players are going to have more reason to sit around and farm or be salty that their drop spot isn't as good as someone who owns lodges where you get infinite pallets and they're maxed out way faster. So I think where the 555 cap is, it helps Fortnite create an actual world that's more balanced, because not every POI has to be perfectly balanced, right? There should be stronger ones and there should be, weaker ones. That way players have a risk versus reward where they want to land. I think the 555 cap is like literally perfect, man. It's pretty good. If anything, they can raise the wood count, lower the metal, and like median out the
They tried that
medium
before,
out the brick, which that could work, but I don't think that's necessary.
Yeah, I remember they tried that. I can't remember how I felt about that. They tried that a long time ago. They had 750 wood, 500 brick, and 250 metal.
Right.
I'm a fan of the way things are now. I get where people like. To be honest, I think this whole like mat cap argument is only a response really for people like it's used as a response for people trying to say, oh, now that we can't pickaxe swing, what are we gonna do? We don't have enough mats to rotate. Give us more mats, and then we won't need to pickaxe swing, which I think is dumb because pickaxe swing has always been in the game and it always will be no matter how many mats you have in the game. But
the only reaon pickaxe swing's an epidemic right now is because of the state of the mobility, though. Yeah. It's almost like they asked for it to happen. Because if we were able to move, it wouldn't even be a problem.
I think I just feel like as much as it is a thing, because obviously you don't see as much pickaxe swinging in duos and trios anyway, right? We've only seen it blow up this season really in solos, where you just get rotations where it's like, guys, we cannot fight, we need to move. But obviously you get the cheeky people who want to take fights and whatnot, and people who just don't know what they're doing. I'm really interested to see further, obviously, because there was obviously, you know, there's still a lot of questions about pickaxe swinging and being able to collusion and all of that stuff that needs to be answered. But regardless of that, I think the way the mats are pretty fine. Somebody here said, rotation items are essential to Fortnite as a game. Without them, basically every end game is identical, and if there isn't anything added, comp will get very, very boring. Agree or disagree, Monster?
Disagree, man. Endgame Fortnite comp is going to be a pop-off fest no matter what. PAX South was a testament to that. We watched an amateur tournament, and this kid, Mark, went off, man. So I totally disagree. I think there's proof in the tournaments that we've had recently, proof in the competition. Yeah, the game might feel the same just because, you know, endgame Fortnite is always going to be the same, but mobility doesn't determine that. I think where the mobility really structures out is it makes the game harder. It makes competitive harder. You have to be so much more smarter. You have to be a master at conserving material and knowing when to take free rotations, risk versus reward, etc. So I think the skill gap on this season is at an all-time high, and a lot of people can't keep up. So they express themselves through their frustration.
Yeah, I think in general, right, when it comes to the idea that every end game is identical, I don't agree with that at all. Like, if you watch the highest levels of comp, every game, obviously a problem that people had is that there hasn't been much broadcasting, but where I've casted events and I've seen events casted, the game doesn't feel the same. I think if you're playing at a lower level, like let's say it's the cash cups, right? Everybody's first game, right, feels the same in the cash cups because you know how it goes. You W key, the end game's not too static. Like, I get that, right? That might feel like it's the same. But in general, like at the highest levels, because that's mostly what I care about. I'm not a comp player, so I don't really care about what's going on in lower points cash cups. But at the highest level competitive, I don't feel like it's the same at all. I feel like there's still room for people to improve and for new metas to be developed. So I don't agree with this one too much. But yeah, Monster, it's been a pleasure having you. It's been great. It's been a dream of mine, man. You obviously have the Fortnite podcast, and you guys are doing great things there. Is there any plans for a new episode soon?
I mean, yeah, we crank one episode out every single weekend. I definitely got some features lined up for continue to bring people on. We're excited for the new season. Although the podcast has been kind of chilling because normally one of the key points for all of us is to talk updates, and we haven't had that lately. So we've just been doing a lot of features instead, and yeah, we want to continue to keep that trend. Yeah, now I guess what's next is to get you on our podcast, get you some more downloads, some new listens, man, and you know what I mean, help you out on that front.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think, like you said, all right, we as content creators, as a community, we all got to support each other and uplift each other. So, super excited to see what you guys put out in the next couple of weeks, man. And like you said, hopefully with a new Fortnite season just comes just the best, man. And same with the content, same with comp announcement, man. I can't wait for Epic to just announce the biggest esport event that's ever happened ever. Like
it could happen. It could happen.
I can't wait. So you've obviously been streaming a lot. You stream basically every day. I'm in your streams a bunch. So any plans for what you stream specifically? You've been doing random duos recently, which are great to watch, especially when you have the right people.
So right after this podcast, I'm gonna go do a little graffiti art stream. I think if you're chilling in the chat, we'll pretty much tag up some names. And yeah, if you guys didn't know, I like to do art content too, man. I'm a all around, ace of all trades, whatever you want to call it. And I just like having fun with my community, man.
Yeah, you guys should definitely check out his art streams. I was in one of them a while ago where you were painting, you were doing some paintings with your wife, and it was like,
oh yeah, that's just the fun stuff. We sit back and I Bob Ross it up for the community, so people at home can follow along.
Yeah.
But my specialty is graffiti and spray painting.
Yeah, that can't wait to check it out, man. I'll definitely be in there a bit later. Thank you very much for joining me, man. It's been a pleasure having you guys. Be sure to follow Monster on all his platforms, on all his media platforms. If you're watching on YouTube or Twitch, his stuff will be on the screen now. You can see his at there. I think you're Monsterdface on everything, right?
Yep, on everything, man.
So you know where to find them. Thank you very much, bro. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, bro. You have a great one.
You too. We're here with MRKN Kyushi. How you doing, bro?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Obviously, it's a dry time right now, I guess I'd say, in terms of just the Fortnite comp scene in general. All we have is the cash cups, and there's not been too much going on. What have you been getting up to in this dry spell?
Just trying to play myself, but it has been kind of boring and stale. So it's hard to get on. It's hard to watch, but just got to keep grinding that out, and that's about it.
Yeah, definitely not the greatest of times, but I will say, right, in the slow downtime, there has been the cash cups, and Mark, and you guys have been killing it right now. Right,
we've been doing good.
Yeah, my main regional focus is EU, of course, but I've been paying attention to a bit of the NA side of things because there's just not been as much to take in. And I will say you guys have been doing great. This week you guys had some great performances. I think 4 of you guys were in the top 100 in NA East and West. I'm not sure if West actually, but I know you guys had some great performances. Obviously, a couple of your players I've highlighted how they've done so well. Like you guys have Av on your roster, and he's done great so far this year with Cash Cups.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to talk to you about how kind of as a talent scout and a manager, what goes into constructing your roster. How did this marketing roster come about, and what role did you have to play in that?
Yeah, well, Merkin's been around for a while, since 2008, and they started out with COD, and sent some really good teams to champs and the tournaments there. So we've kind of kept that going into Fortnite, obviously, because of how big it is. And so basically what I do is I'm a scout, so I watch a lot of Fortnite. I'm always tuning into FNCS, whether squads, trios, whatever it is. I'm watching Cash Cups. I'm on Twitter, making relationships with players, on Discord, getting to know them. And yeah, it's a very tedious process. First you need players come to you, or you go to players, see if they're interested, right? And then you work from there. You get to know them as a person, because in Merkin it's very important to us. We don't want anyone who's a bad person, who's toxic, who just those types of things. So we want our roster and our players genuine people, and represent us really well. And they've been doing that on the leaderboards, and we're super happy about that. And we all know that they're very good people as well. So yeah, that kind of sums it up. I mean,
that is one
you
thing.
Just have to, the players grind, and I grind watching them play, I guess. So
yeah, it must be. It must be a lot of Fortnite to take in, right? Like that is one of the things I wanted to ask. Like when it comes like personality wise, and even just as a player individually, what are the kind of things that you look for? Just for anyone who's out there, right? This is your one time you're gonna get to the chance to hear this from a scout of a big org. What are the kind of things you look for as a scout?
Well, first of all, we look for consistency. So we want, consistent placements, like very good placements, obviously. So right now, we're looking at solo place. I mean, it depends on the game mode, right? Like squads, we want top 25 placements around there, right? For solos, I'd say, we want you to consistently be making top 100, top 50, and then just kind of like that. So as long as you're consistent, the off week, everyone has bad weeks, everyone has bad 2 weeks or whatever. So we're not, you know, sticklers for that, but just give it your all. And if you're a good player, it usually translates into the tournaments, and that's how we'll find you or you find us, and we'll talk about it from there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think you guys have definitely been, very, very. I think you. I don't know how much responsibility you have for some of your former players that have been scouted.
Yeah.
But you guys, in terms of people who have come through, Mark, and you guys, it's nice to say the least. So I lost my words there, but
Yeah.
obviously you guys have been. You had Binny, who's now in Phase. You had Assault, who's now in Ghost. Who was it that was on Rogue that you had?
We just had Arum.
Yeah.
He was with us, and then he left us for Rogue, which is a great opportunity.
Yeah.
And we're not going to hold anyone back from taking a big step like that, because at MRKN we want we want to do well. Obviously, that's our main goal, but we also build relationships with our players like no other org I've personally been in, and we want them to succeed, and we want them to make gaming, whatever their dream is, a career. And if they truly believe that going to Rogue makes that possible or furthers them in their career or in their path and journey, then we're going to be supportive with their decision. Obviously, we want the best for them, and it's just kind of good vibes all around.
That's incredibly admirable, right? Because I think there's a lot of orgs in the scene who aren't the same. There's a lot of people who are out here just trying to almost manipulate players and just get the most out of a player and then dash them away. To see an org that's really about kind of player development and helping people to potentially even outgrow the org itself and just get to where they want to get to within the scene. That's always a great thing.
Yeah.
When it comes to right now, your roster, obviously you guys are doing great, right? You guys are doing great.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any sort of players you've had your eyes on, right? Any sort of players you see that player and you think, hey, that person would be great for MRKN?
Yeah, of course. There's always players that you really want on your team or your organization, and for me in particular, there have been a lot of players that I've kept my eyes on, and said to myself, hey. Well, we currently have a recruitment challenge going right now.
Yeah.
So that ends tomorrow. Submissions, like application submissions, end tomorrow. And then from tomorrow, the 26th to the 1st, we will be discussing as an organization, me with, the owners, other staff members, about who we see fitting well on our team. And we actually just implemented a new academy team.
Yeah.
So that's basically, I guess to sum it up, it's essentially a team that's, I don't want to say like a step under the competitive roster, but it's for players that haven't necessarily placed as good as the competitive roster has.
Yeah.
But we see a lot of potential in them.
Yeah. And
our goal for that is to provide them with exposure, kind of help them, because in a lot of cases, players, I don't know how to say this well, but bigger name players, so say, okay, people like on Phase, let's just say Phase Dubs is looking for a duo. He is obviously insane. We all know that, but he's more likely to get someone of higher quality than someone who doesn't have that in their name or doesn't have a bigger organization in their name. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it also helps them, get a good duo, helps them trio, helps them get a good squad, those types of things. And it pushes their potential. and it helps them achieve that. So our goal with the academy team is to promote the players to the competitive roster, because obviously that's what we want. We want to give them everything we can. We want them to represent us well, and we want them to become the best in the game. So yeah, it's a promotion system. And yeah, that's all I got to say about that. So
with the Mark and RC guy, the recruitment challenge you guys are doing, how's that going to work in terms of, more specifically, how does somebody go from, submitting an application within that to getting onto the main roster?
Yeah, so basically right now is we have one or two more days to submit it. So I don't know when people are going to be watching this, but if you are and you're interested, our link to our application form is in the MRKN bio. It's in a link tree, and you can, you'll see it.
Yeah.
You fill it out. So there's a competitive section, there's a content creator section, staff section, editors, graphic designers, all that. And everyone from staff member wise from their department helps, select who they see fit, just like that. So there's different questions on the application form that I wanted to keep my section pretty, straightforward. And so it just says, list your top 5 or your top 10 best placements, or top 5 or something like that. List your past 5 placements just to see consistency in your previous 5. And then, your Fortnite trackers and just Twitter, Discord, everything like that. So to contact them if we decide to pick them up, or that's kind of the gist of it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good thing you guys are doing, right? Giving people the opportunity to kind of, get themselves into an org that has, some sort of credibility. In general, though, how much on a day-to-day basis, how much do you manage, right? Because you're what, like the general manager of the comp team?
Well, myself and a guy named Strafe are both competitive. We have the same job. We scout and kind of manage that area. And then our owner, Ride, is very helpful. He's always around. He kind of does everything. You know what I mean? He helps out with content creation, managing that. He's just all over the place, and he's an unbelievable help for all of us. And we kind of, everything that we see, we try to discuss it with him. He helps us select players, just things like that. But on a day-to-day basis, there's a point where you kind of let the players just do their thing, but you're always kind of, keeping track on them, talking to them, seeing how they're doing outside of the game as well. Like, are you doing well in school? It's not, it's not too hard on you right now. You know what I mean? So it's more than just the game. It's also about, they're people, they have their own lives, and we're not, if they can't make an event, we're not mad at them because, we can't make a meeting, or we can't make a, you know what I mean? Just types of things like that.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of, I guess it's a lot of tedious work inside of the game, but filled with a lot of, personal relationships as well.
Yeah.
So
do you guys have coaches?
Right now we're talking with people that we are not going to name. Okay. We also have like a psychologist
oh wow,
in our organization that if players are stressed out about something, or psychologist duties, they can go to them and work things out there. So if they're stressed with school and on top of practicing, they can hit them up, talk about that, and
Oh, I love that, right? Because I've always been a fan of saying that, You know, I know a lot of people don't like to compare real sports and esports, and I don't think maybe we should anyway, but I always thought that was one thing that should be transferable, where we have, you know, real infrastructure within teams, right? Like being able to have a psychologist, someone that, you know, the players can go talk to is a big deal. I think that's a great thing that you have. And I'd love to see a bunch of orgs, you know, kind of do similar things or invest in other things outside of just the game where needed. Wanted to get into, you know, one of the main talking points I wanted to kind of discuss with you was the struggles, right? Because as much as, you know, as much as running an org is exciting and can be exciting within Fortnite, especially when you have such talented players and such amazing people, you know, working behind the scenes and players themselves. There's obviously struggles that go with it, right? There's obviously a bunch of difficulties that can go into operating within Fortnite. From your personal experience, what are some of the most difficult parts about doing what you do?
I mean, for me, it's always, and I think a lot of people can agree on this, is that I'm a student. I'm 20 years old. You know, I go to school. I have a family. I have a girlfriend. And just balancing all of it, it's challenging, but it's what we like to do. Like, it's what we enjoy doing, and especially with the family that we have at MRKN, staff members, players, it's easy to, you know, want to do the extra work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to say they push me and they push other people, but everyone there inspires me to watch the extra, or to watch the last hour of West FNCS finals. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. When it's late for me, or you know, get up early, watch EU, types of things like that. And so I guess that's a struggle in itself, but it also helps you become a better person in the long run. Another thing would be, I mean, I got time does, I guess, work into that as well. And you run out of a lot of time during the day doing all those things, right? Especially if you go to school, you're there most of the day, and then you get on, you're watching Fortnite, you're watching scrims, you're trying to talk and build relationships with players on Twitter, Discord, whatever that is, right? Just things like those. I mean, it's not really challenging in itself, but for me personally, but there are always some negatives, but the positives always outweigh them, right?
Of course, right? And I think speaking to more when it comes to difficulty, can you speak more to kind of on Epic's behalf, where they maybe made things more difficult for you? Because, you know, obviously, where you have, you know, where you guys have such a talented roster, and I'm sure you're looking to evolve that roster even more. I wouldn't be surprised if you have someone competing at the World Cup later this year, or whatever the event is, right? Obviously, Epic haven't, you know, done the greatest of jobs when it comes to kind of, you know, supporting orgs and implement orgs into what they do. Is that something that you guys at MRKN have put much thought into, and does that kind of stops you from investing too much into the Fortnite scene?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll touch on everything you said, but ultimately the main goal is to have, you know, our players attend the next future World Cup. Hopefully that happens. But what Epic has done, I mean, we could say, you and I, the community could say that we're not happy with it, especially with the new announcements of the new engine, right? But for us as an organization, lately it's been difficult, because you saw with Ghost how they let their players go.
Yeah.
And it's hard to word, but Bala did it very well in his tweet. I'm not sure if you saw what he said, but essentially it's these esports organizations are, Fortnite was so big a year ago, right? And with that, salaries, you know, were standard. Communication between orgs and players we're there. But after the World Cup, that's when everything, and leading up to the World Cup, that's when everything kind of got inflated.
Yeah.
So salaries got inflated because of the percentage taken that these organizations are looking for in the contracts, right?
Yeah.
And so whatever that is, if you go in and you're minimum making 50 grand from the World Cup, that percentage is going to take a big toll, right? So players are asking for higher salaries,
Yeah.
and that's become the standard. So from personal experience, I know what some players are looking for, and in my opinion, it's a very high number.
Oh, wow.
And organizations aren't necessarily looking to pay that much, especially with the Epic and Fortnite not officially doing the broadcasts for the events, right? And that's in the World Cup. That's when a lot of organizations got exposure. Seeing, say, FaZe in in Dub's name, right?
Yeah.
And he's just killing it, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of exposure on 50 K viewers to 100K viewers, 200K viewers, right? It's a lot of people. So that hasn't been happening, and that's where, in my opinion, organizations are kind of taking a step back and thinking about, hey, like, is this really what we want to do with this money? Like,
Yeah.
are we really getting what we need and want out of it? And I'm not saying that it's a cruel business. Looking at the organizations just wanting to make money and getting bigger. I mean, for some, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And for others, it's a lot about the players as well. If that kind of touches on it, I'm not sure, but that's the difficulties that we have. And especially with, the new season coming out now, pushed back until February 20th. That's big, especially for these organizations that are currently contracting and providing money to the players. That there's no future really competitive events until after February 20th, right? So it's been, I'm not sure when squads ended. I don't know if you do either, but let's just say it was in December. I'm not sure. So it's been 2 months since the last official competitive event. And that's 2 months of salary going towards the players, right? So it's very hard. The communication has been scarce between Epic and everyone.
Yeah.
And everyone's not happy about that. So yeah, I think that kind of outlines our struggles with it.
Yeah. I want to say, so you've already said a lot there, so there's a couple things I want to pick away at. With what you said just most recently, is that where you as an org put more pressure on your players to provide content, right? This is a big thing that's being discussed recently, obviously, especially with like a lot of the ghost players who were, who have not re-signed with the org or have been dropped, whatever the circumstances were. I'm not too sure right now. A lot of those guys, frankly, weren't producing much content.
Right.
A lot of them weren't streaming consistently. A lot of them maybe weren't as consistent and doing as well on YouTube and whatnot. How do you feel about that? Like, is that something that you guys kind of, drill into your players? Is that something you maybe even include in contracts, right? Hey, you guys have to have a certain amount of streaming hours, this kind of thing. Like, how much pressure do you put on your players to provide content?
I think for us, we don't try to push our players in an unhealthy way, right? We want them to be happy and satisfied with what they're doing. We want them to be happy and satisfied with us as an organization and us as staff members as well. But we have had conversations about, hey, look, like, you guys have an amazing opportunity right now to boost your socials, whether that's Twitter and, mainly Twitch and YouTube, right? Those platforms are huge right now for gaming. And if you decide that you want, whenever you retire or whenever Fortnite expires, you don't want to regret not putting in that extra work now.
Yeah.
When YouTube people are making careers out of it, right? And these players are so good from any organization, whether it's us, Ghost, Liquid, that they should be putting out content. They should be uploading to YouTube, because if they're, making videos and getting views and subs now, that's always going to be there with them. and people like Tifu, like he just let's not say him. Let's say Clicks. Clicks was a nobody, right? And then he started placing well. He started streaming, and of course he got help along the way. But who's to say that none of these players won't get help along the way either, right? And now he can make a career for the rest of his life out of streaming, out of uploading on YouTube or whatever it is, right? And I think that's what I think for us, we try not to be greedy with it. We're not saying, hey, look, like we need you to put out content. We're kind of doing it on behalf of the players. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And saying this is an amazing opportunity for you guys to further your journey into gaming, or you know what I mean? Because these guys could be gamers for the rest of their lives on YouTube or on Twitch.
Yeah.
Or they could, change it to vlogging. And I think that's mainly where we're coming from, is that is kind of from that perspective, if that makes sense.
Another thing I wanted to get out there with you was, so you talked about, having like player salaries being inflated, and there's a lot of speculation about, what kind of player salary, what kind of levels those are at now. Obviously, without, exposing anything about your org, obviously you said you have an idea or guess of the kind of numbers. What would you guess, like, the average kind of salary is around for tier 1 pros right now?
Well, it really depends on the organization, because I don't want to give anything away in specific, but I know some organizations, obviously they all have different contracts, they all have different write-ups of everything. But for some big for some big organizations, some of the players aren't making as much as you would think. In return, they're getting a lot of exposure from the organization.
Yeah, that right? is a balance, a trade-off that you often have.
Exactly. So for someone who's I don't know, say starting an organization, the players are going to want a bit more money because they're not getting that exposure. They're not working with those sponsors.
Of course.
Some contracts are performance-based, some contracts are growth-based. So I think that's all I can say. I mean, some people are wanting an insane amount of money, in my personal opinion.
How insane are you talking?
Well, one of the players who is doing very well right now, who is currently obviously not signed to an organization. I'm not going to say the name.
Yeah.
And I honestly have no clue if this is a troll or not, but he was asking for around 12K.
12K
which is 12K a month, which is absolutely insane. I've heard 6K from someone who recently just got signed. So I don't know if they're acquiring that money, and I don't know if they're getting that money now.
Yeah.
But that's a number that I heard right from him, straightforward. So yeah, I mean, it all depends on the organization and what assets they have.
I've had similar numbers, to be fair. I have heard similar numbers around. There's certain players who I've spoken to personally who have given me a bit of insight into how much they get paid, and obviously I'd never reveal that unless that's something that they came out with publicly.
Yeah.
It is interesting to see how kind of Fortnite salaries evolve and how that will kind of start to affect organizations, especially like yourself, right? Because you guys are an org where you have some sort of prestige, so being able to keep up with players demanding so much, could start to get difficult. I don't know how you guys manage things over there, but I think that is definitely a big struggle for an org right now, where we have such inflated salaries, so it can be hard. How are you guys in terms of content creation and picking up more kind of content creators or competitive based content creators?
Yeah, so we hold that at a very high standard. We're always looking for content creators. We have some big ones. We have Larry Fishburger, who's been with us for a while. He's great. He's killing it for us. And I'll talk about him for a bit. Those are the type of people that we look for and want. He's a nice, genuine person.
Yeah.
He helps out around MRKN, and for content creators, and I guess in the search of content creators, because that's not my area. It's not my department. But I know that the staff member who works with content creators is always, always looking, always wanting to find, and for that, it's obviously content creation. It's all about personality.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of it is gameplay and game skill as well. And usually the people that we bring on as content creators are just nice people in general. That's usually how they're getting views in the first place, right? They're funny, they're charismatic, you know what I mean? And so for that, we always want to be pushing our content creators and their content. That's obviously, we would be pushing our competitive players to practice and scrim and play in the tournaments, right? So they go hand in hand. And that's something that we want as an organization. We've been talking a lot about building our YouTube. We actually just like an hour ago completed a new video, a box fight match against Vanish.
Oh,
and
nice.
That's gonna be going out on our YouTube. So we're looking for those types of things. We want to be growing our YouTube because FaZe, they're a great example of everything, I guess, but they've based themselves off of their YouTube content. That's how their players have really succeeded. That's how they've made a living off of it. And as an organization, if you're not really doing that and you're not really looking into those types of things and growth in specific, then I think you need to revisit why you're an organization. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
So,
yeah, man, it's been a great time talking to you. I appreciate all the insight you've been able to give us.
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously you've already spoken about what MRKN has planned, and it's very exciting to see the results of the RC. Excited to see what you do with with the academy team and whatever coach you guys choose to maybe pick up. Very exciting to see. Any message that you have out there for anybody listening who may one day want to get on MRKN?
I mean, a good message is just keep grinding. I mean, I guess I'll say one last thing, but in my personal opinion, anyone can be the best Fortnite player in the world as long as they put the time into it and they have a good quality practice. There are a few factors that are pretty big, like where you live, ping, your setup, if you have a good computer or not. But if you really decide that you want to do this, you can. And an example is or let's say Ninja and Tfue and Myth were known as the best players in the world at one time when Fortnite was, really popping in the beginning. And they were the best players because they devoted all their time to playing the game and practicing. And just to the people who think they can't make it, if you put in all that time, you 100% can. Yeah, sure, you might be a bit behind the game right now, but the game is always evolving. And if you have the drive and the mentality to become the best player and you put more hours than anyone else in the game, then you're going to be able to do that. Like, for instance, if we would have had a World Cup a year before the first World Cup, I would say Tfue would probably win. But now, in that year, so many players emerged, and Tfue didn't do that well, right? And Booga came out of nowhere, Clicks came out of nowhere, and that just shows that anyone can really do it. And if you put that in, put that work in, you can make it big. You can make it to a big organization if that's what you choose to do. Anything's possible if you have the drive. So that's the one thing I have to say. I guess it's more inspirational than
that's great
than to join. But yeah, I mean, the sky's the limit when it comes to gaming. So
hey, I appreciate it, man, and I hope everyone listening takes that in and keeps grinding towards whatever it is your goal is. I appreciate you very much, man. Your socials on the screen at Kyushi FN on most things, right?
Yeah. Other than Twitch, but that's fine. We don't need to plug that.
Yeah. Appreciate you coming on, man. Hopefully I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll message me anytime and I'll hop on.
No problem, man. All right, guys. So I'm back with Taylor. My mic was muted there, which was a bit embarrassing, so I'm going to reintro that. But back with Taylor, Somebodysgun. How you doing, man? Friend of the show.
Hey, doing well, Leven. Always happy to be here.
Yeah, man. I think this is like your second or third time coming on, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I want to say third, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Regardless, we're happy to have you back. We're happy to have you on. Talk to the people. What you been getting up to? What have you been getting up to recently?
Been busy with work. Just traveled to Dallas for a couple days for a conference. And then still been grinding, keeping up with the competitive Fortnite scene, putting out some content. And yes, this is the guy that shat on Leven yesterday, by the way.
For the people who don't understand where that's from, yesterday Taylor and I we did some 1v1 box fights, and I kind of gave him the stinky. He got wrecked. It's fair enough. He is a bit of a boomer, so it was always expected. But he got wrecked. It's fine. He doesn't want to admit it. He doesn't want to talk about much. I understand that. But it's fine. Everybody has their time. Everybody gets destroyed sometimes. It is what it is. You live and you learn. You should probably vote review our box fights maybe and see if you could.
Oh yeah, that would do me some real good. The few hours a week I play, I should go VOD review some box fights.
Yeah.
But what do we got today, Leven?
Okay, so I really wanted to talk to you because I read an article you wrote recently, and I loved it. I loved the article. It was a great article. If you I'm not gonna say you should, if you're listening to this right now, you should go and read the article. Where can they find it now? Because I know you had it like.
Here. It's on dailyesports.gg. That's where I put all my writing content. I'll also share it on Twitter at Somebodysgun if you guys want to find it that way. I just threw it in the chat if you want to take a look at it. But you want me to recap essentially
Yeah.
what I talked about?
Yeah, for the people who obviously haven't read it yet, just recap it and we can get right into things.
So really what it stems from was a lot of these bigger name players becoming free agents. You see guys like Psalm, Snood, Dwifo, Eclipse, all people that have been performing in recent tournaments. Like, it's not guys that peaked at World Cup and they're now slowing down. I believe most of them have performed pretty well, if not really well, in recent tournaments. So it's surprising to see these guys become free agents. And full disclosure, I don't know whether it's the player's choice deciding to go off on their own or it's the team deciding not to re-sign them. It's likely some of both. But the article dives into some of the anecdotal evidence around what's going on in the Fortnite scene, which makes it a little more difficult to have large teams invest deeper and more into competitive Fortnite.
Yeah, it's a concept that I personally have been very interested in for a while, right? Like I don't write articles anymore. I basically only wrote like 1 or 2 articles, right? But the first ever one I wrote was right before World Cup. I wrote an article about how just orgs, at the World Cup, we're not going to see people repping their orgs much, or really not players repping it. So we're not going to hear chants of people chanting, "We love FaZe, we love it," or something, things of that nature. Epic have never really put much support into providing support for orgs, and players within our scene have never really done a good job of providing much value outside of just being a competitive player, right? And even like you said, with a bunch of those people, a lot of those people, they do well in comp, right? And they have been doing well in comp since World Cup. A lot of those people, some of those people don't stream, some of those people stream a bit. But outside of, just playing for the most part, a lot of those people don't provide much, right? So obviously, seeing them now in this position where we have so many people as free agents, we have a lot of people on the market, and we have a lot of orgs who don't seem to be as willing to invest heavily into Fortnite. It's kind of just a culmination of all those things coming into one, and finally us kind of seeing that happen.
Right, and some of the pieces I touch on in the article are, one, like you said, there was no real representation at the Fortnite World Cup. You were able to have about a fist-sized logo on the front of your shirt, the back of your shirt, the sleeve, and on your pants. And it was about this big.
Yeah.
That was all you could do. And regardless of what it was, maybe you had the team name on the front and then you had a sponsor on the back. But that doesn't provide the org a lot of benefit, especially when in-game, no in-game names had, phase whatever or TSM, whoever it may be. They weren't allowed to have their org names in front of their in-game name, which then mitigated the benefit that the orgs were receiving.
Yeah, and that is obviously a major problem because at the end of the day, that's what all of these orgs want. They want the exposure. They want, to have some form of representation, and that's why a lot of them pick up these players, right? Because you want to show to your sponsors, hey, look at all this exposure again. We just had a player compete in a tournament that was viewed by 10 million people all over the world. Hey, invest in us, do this. So for us to not have that, right, was definitely a major blow for orgs, and obviously I just got done speaking to MRKN Kyushi, who's obviously a manager of MRKN, and he talked about how Epic haven't necessarily made it easy for orgs, especially in a time where player salaries are quite inflated. Players are asking for a lot. Players have demands. Like, I sometimes feel bad for these orgs, right? You have some of these talented players, be it, right? They're very talented players, but they're out here demanding like 5-figure salaries monthly, saying, hey, I don't want you to get a percentage of my earnings, and I'm probably not even going to stream much at all or do much with my stream. Like, what? Like, that's crazy to me, if you ask me. That is crazy that we have things like that going on. I don't want to start bugging out. I know, like, my last podcast I did with about the Kizzy situation, I was bugging out, and I know people love that, but like I'm trying to keep it a bit more calm, a bit more humble. But like, that is so crazy to me that people don't understand how like this whole thing works. Like, I understand as young players, right, they don't necessarily get that there's more to it. Like, where does your money come from? Yeah, your money comes from Epic, but you also get salary. You also have orgs providing XYZ things for you, and if you're not doing much to provide value back, you can't expect them to sustain that at all.
Right, and in addition, the lack of broadcasts in recent tournaments, like you spoke with Kyushi and Bala brought up, that's another piece that these orgs are missing out on. So essentially, if you don't have a player that's creating content, active on social media, putting out their own stuff, then the org really is going to struggle to benefit from that player unless they're just taking a chunk of salary.
Yeah.
And I don't think players want to just give up chunk of winnings, not salary. And I don't think the player just wants to simply give up a percentage of their winnings. So what it really comes down to, because orgs are a business, right? They have to be able to receive some return on their investment, which their investment is players. And most of these orgs have investors that are funding them. So they have to be responsible for reporting how they're going to get that money back. And if there's no broadcast, they're not going to be able to put their name on things. They can't sell this to sponsors.
Yeah.
It's difficult to, justify signing players to large contracts, large salaries, when there's not much of a possible return.
And like, it's weird because the way things work, like Kyushi kind of talked about it, right? Like, different people sign for different reasons, and you kind of have there's always different angles, right? Like, when people found out that Kalk was signing to Vanguard, people were like, what? Why would your top tier player who is signing to a new org? And it's like, yo, dummy, listen up, buddy. Kalk is getting the bag. I don't even have to know him or ask him. Kalk is getting the cha-ching. He's getting the dollar. He's getting the skrill. Do you know why? Because Vanguard being a new org means that they can't provide necessarily the exposure and maybe the support that he might need. So guess how they, balance that out? The sliders, you have a slider, you have one of one thing, one of another thing. Guess how they balance it out? They cough up that money, right? You sign for different things. I have a story, right? that, you know, it doesn't matter now because none of those players I think even play Fortnite, and that org isn't even involved in Fortnite anymore, right? But you know, Ninjas in Pajama, NIP, the legendary CS:GO organization. Big organization, especially in Counter-Strike. I'm not sure other games are competing, if they even compete in any other. And then right now, I know their reputation is not too great because of some shady stuff that's gone on. But regardless, quite a big organization. When they first introduced the Fortnite roster, the money that they were paying that Fortnite roster, piss poor money, terrible money. Like, it was something like around 400 euros a month or something like that, right? You know, apologies if I'm a bit off on that, but I know for a fact it was not the greatest of money, right? Compared to what other big orgs or other orgs on the level of NIP were signing players for around that time. So people obviously like, hey, like, what the hell? Like, all people around our community were like, hey, what the hell? Why, you know, Nip lowballing them? And the justification was that those guys were all small individually. Yeah, they were decently talented within the comp scene, but they were not, you know, big brands. So them signing to Nip helped boost their brand and elevate their brand. And, you know, they paid for that by not getting as much salary, right? So you sign for different reasons. There's always give and take exchange. But like you've explained so well, with the way Fortnite is right now, there's not a lot of room for give or take in Fortnite, just because simply orgs can't get much value out of a lot of people. Like, a lot of people, they just can't. And it's gonna take a big event like a World Cup 2, whatever it is Fortnite about to announce, which I know in my heart that it's going to be the biggest thing we've ever seen in all of gaming. I know, I believe it in my heart. But it's gonna take that before orgs start saying, okay, let's invest in Fortnite again.
Well, and in addition, I think we're starting to see players outgrow orgs faster than you would in any other sport or esport.
100%.
Because at a certain point, the org can't do anything for you. It's not going to give you a roster spot. It's not going to help you compete. And once you outgrow that, I mean, we've seen people like Cloak and Tfue leave FaZe because they're monsters on their own. They're some of the top names in Fortnite and probably even outside of the game. They're bigger than an org now. And for smaller players, it makes sense. But once you become what the orgs are looking for, then it becomes harder for the player to justify the return that they're going to get from the org side. So it's a weird place right now where Fortnite's at, especially with the lack of planning that can go on. You know, a business is probably going through their books right now, trying to figure out where they're going to invest money, what's their strategy for 2020. And when you have no idea what's going to happen in 2020 for Fortnite, I mean, we could all guess that there's going to be something, and likely there will, but you can't be spending other people's money on a player on a guess. It may work out, but you don't know.
Yeah. And speak of outgrowing people, flipping Ninja was on Luminosity. I'm sure most people didn't even know Ninja was on Luminosity when he was like the biggest person in the whole world for like that 3 or 4 month stretch. Like, Ninja was on Luminosity. Like, he outgrew that org by everything. You know what I mean? Like, people, like, Fortnite has been such an amazing game for growing people, and you can grow like that in Fortnite, right? I would, and kind of transitioning my point over, I made, you know, a series of tweets, you know, based around your article about how I want to see these orgs invest in comp creators, frankly, right? Like, I've seen it happen in a couple other games with some big orgs. I want to see, what's an example of an org? I want to see, okay, I use this example for myself just because, like, you know, let me just use myself, right? Hey, let's say the Leven podcast or the Leven show, whatever I'm calling it now, was brought to you by E11, for example. Wouldn't that be sick? Like, E11 Leven, that'd be sick. And I use an example as well. We, as much as, you know, like, players will always give value in terms of they're making winnings and they're making winnings and they're going to be able to provide money, like direct money to orgs, right? An org could, like, I feel like within the comp scene and within comp creators, orgs could easily help blow these comp creators up and once we've blown up, then we start to provide way more value to these orgs, without much development. I feel like, right? Like, I feel like an org could easily just make someone, like, just make some of the creators that we have, like yourself, like, you know, okay, maybe not Jerian because he's already quite big, right? But even him as an example, someone like a Tim McD, easily blow these people up and help them to put out great content and help them to open up their content to a much wider range of people, and those people would instantly just blow up and be taken in, right? And once they're taken in, then the org starts to reap the benefits of these people branching out and doing other things. But I haven't seen it. I haven't seen orgs invest into comp creators, and I'm not too sure why. Because as well, sorry, like I know I'm going off on a long one here, but within that tweet, within that log of tweets itself, I said how, hey, you're not just picking up a comp creator, you now have somebody on your org, on your roster, who knows just almost everything about comp. Why would you hire someone to be a talent scout when you have Somebodysgun who sits there and watches 5 hours of NA VODs a day? He knows who's good and who's not good. He can be your talent scout. You know what I mean? Like, you can, like, I don't see. I want to talk to more Fortnite managers and ask them why this isn't a thing. Like, why is this not a thing? Maybe there's something I'm missing here, and I'd love people to enlighten me, and I'd love for someone to talk to me and give me some insights to why this is not already a thing. But come on, man, surely.
So I can't tell you for a fact why this isn't a thing, but if players are not signing with orgs, why are they going to sign non-players to these orgs? You know, if they're already not ready to invest back into Fortnite for the year, going outside of the players, which is the easier wins, it's then going to be harder to justify investing in someone like yourself who doesn't already have a big name, isn't not that you're not
no it's fine, you know, continue. I'm not gonna get upset. You can continue.
But like, they don't see the value in a podcast like this or someone who constantly is watching the scene because they're probably so far removed from it. You know, again, they're business people. They're not exactly people that are watching Fortnite every day and understand the scene.
Yeah.
They're looking at things to try and make money at the end of the day. But one thing we might see, and the 100 Thieves facility that just got released is incredible. And I think that may be the start of something special. Because I believe Dignitas just opened or released a facility. It's not Fortnite related, but TSM is building something.
Yeah.
FaZe likely will be having a facility soon. So that's where I'll see a combination of both the content side and the comp side combine. But that's just an educated guess.
I like the argument you made there. I'm gonna rebuttal it though. I'm gonna come back at you.
All right.
Right now, right, I don't want to use examples of people just because I won't use examples just for the sake of just keeping this easier. Right now, a top comp org investing in a player has to invest way more money, way more resources into helping that player grow and provide value for them than if they were for comp creators. Right, like right now, especially with comp creators, frankly, the scene for what we do isn't very saturated at all. There's not many of us, really, compared to like how many players there are to invest in. Like, there's not many of us, so I feel like it's way easier to make one of us something than it is to make a player something. Because a lot of these players, this is when you say to players, let's make some content, guys. You guys got to start making content. Their first initial instinct, 3-minute montage with the same default music that everybody uses. Let me get some clips. Let me do some box size 200 pump box. Like, it's all the same, and it's boring to me. Like, I find it boring, frankly. Like, I can appreciate, you know, the talent that goes into it. Like, sometimes I watch some of these montages and they're impressive. But this content is, how do you think you're going to grow when you're putting out the same content as I've seen people who have like 10 subs and like get 15 viewers on their montages put out some banging montages. And I'm like, damn, man, it's a shame that everyone's doing this, because it just means you probably will never grow unless you start placing very high, which is obviously a different conversation in itself. But like, I just think it's a lot easier to invest in comp creators right now than it would be for a top player, unless it's like someone who's at the like pinnacle. Like if you're like trying to sign Unknown Army, then regardless of who you are and who you're putting up against, there's just way more instant value in him because he streams, he puts out good content, his personality is very likable to his viewership and the community, and he's at the top racking up some money from them cash cups, you know. So like it's different with that, but I that's my rebuttal to that. I definitely see your point, and I think, to be honest, that your point is probably just the case. You know, it probably is just the case. But that is my argument for that. I just think it costs way less to invest in a content creator than it does, and the potential for value isn't, I wouldn't say similar, because you know the top potential for value out of a player is just so high. Like your player could go on to win the World Cup. Like you don't get closer to the pinnacle value of, when it comes to that. But like, I still think you can get quite a lot of value out of a competitive creator. But hey, that's my take.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that last point. I do think at a certain point you could, like a show like Hotline FN could overcome, or even the Fortnite podcast. Those are consistently getting views and consistently putting out content and driving continuous value, whereas players it's kind of volatile.
Yeah.
And you know, like you said, you do get more value investing in something that's going to be more structured and open to a larger piece and not rely on simply placing well or blowing up, you know?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's just my take on that. I think I did really like the article you put out once again, so I recommend everyone go check that out. Obviously, I spoke to Monster about this earlier, but I want to get your thoughts on all of the new stuff that's come out. You know, the season being extended and the new physics engine. What are your kind of thoughts about these things?
Initially, it's kind of a nothing burger. Like, I hope they were doing something and, you know, making changes, but they didn't give us anything. They said they're going to change over to a new engine. We have no idea what that means. They said at first they want it to still feel like the same old Fortnite, which kind of scares me, because that makes it seem like at some point it's not always going to feel like the same Fortnite.
Yeah.
And then there was one other piece in there at the 2-week event. I'm hoping it's a comp event, but you don't really know. So
no, there's no chance that's a comp event. There's no chance that is a tournament. That 2-week event that they were talking about is going to be like 2 weeks worth of storylines throughout the map that lead into the new physics engine or some shit. Like, there's no chance that is a comp Fortnite event. Hopefully I'm proven wrong. And like, the one thing about that post is what I hated. Like, I hated this. We can't reveal all the secrets yet. Blank will be coming in. Blank. Like, why do that? Like, I get, you know, some marketing strategy to build up hype, but that is so annoying. Like, that is so annoying. I hate that. Like, because it just opens up. Because our community has just become... Okay, let me calm down here. Our community loves to troll. Like, we have, like, the most trolly community in all of gaming, I feel like, right? Because it's just how we have so many kids. Like, there's just way too many kids. You doing all that blank stuff just gives these kids way more opportunity to troll. And it gets frustrating. I'll deal with it. You know, I might even partake in a bit of troll myself. But it's frustrating. Like, it is frustrating. I just want to see what happens. February 20th, like, feels like so far away. And now the days are just going to go slower. I'm going to be more triggered now. Like, I'm going to be more impatient. If anything, Fortnite now just feels a lot drier. Because, like, before it felt like I was playing the game knowing, maybe we can get something tomorrow. I never know. Like, let me just keep playing it, could come tomorrow. Now that I know it's February 20th, I'm just like... Just gotta wait till February the 20th, man. It's so long. Regardless, I hope it is good. I hope it does work out. Anything you're excited for in particular? Any players you're excited for?
Nothing really. I mean, the cash cups are what they are. It's not really a player, but Aussie Antics, I've been really loving the stuff that he's putting out, covering the cash cups from a competitive content, giving people a platform to allow more people to see what's going on, and making cash cups somewhat exciting. I mean, I like to watch them, but I'm sure not many people do.
Yeah.
And another person that I've been seeing that I think will be more competitive in the near future is Nick A30. He's always been more of a content creator, kind of, and he's been, granted, they're sub scrims, but he's been playing those every day, working on some sort of competitive environment for months now, and I think that'll really help him. And then there's guys like Mars OW and AV that are just Cash Cup Kings that I think we'll see really start to prove their worth when we get a team mode, which will be duos.
Oh, you're saying the team is going to be duos? Oh, why, he just dropped that in there. What makes you think it's going to be duos?
Oh, you just cut out. What'd you
Oh,
say?
no, you just dropped that in. What makes you think it's going to be duos? Like, you just said that so confidently. Like, it will be duos. Like, well, holy, people think it's going to be trios. Like, why is it duos?
It has to do with the most recent high school and college announcement that they had. That game mode's going to be duos, and you have to have your school sign up before February 17th, which is right before the new season, right? So if you're signing up, why would they not align duos for high school and college teams along with the major competitive mode for the next season? It just makes sense to me, but again, I don't know. But I just like to throw that in there.
I like how you've aligned that. Like, I like how you've made that connection. It's just, I never will ever trust Fortnite with stuff like that, because they announced a whole TwitchCon, didn't they? Like, there was a TwitchCon event where, like, it was initially going to be, like, duos, but then, or squads or something. Then they changed it to, like, trios. Like, there's always been some. I will never trust Fortnite when it comes to that kind of thing. I will never, ever, unless they prove me wrong. Like, you'd think, because, especially since they've clearly had this Fortnite league, high school league, has clearly had communication with Epic, because they've been giving, licensing permission, whatever, wherever it is. So you'd hope and you'd think, hey, if these guys have spoken to Epic and have been told to run a duo competition, then, like, there must be duos coming. Like, it must be duos. But at the same time, you never know, man. Like, I don't know even if I can say this. I don't know if I can say this. But, like, okay, so, like, if you use your brain and think, the War Legends Series Invitational was sponsored by Epic, and that was a squad competition that we were running. Well, I say we on behalf of War Legends, we were running. Squads ended before our event ended. I don't think people realize that sometimes. Like, Squads FNCS was way done. They had introduced Duo Arena, but we still had a squad event to hold. You know what I mean? Like, this thought, like, they could be doing, like, it could still be Duo Arena in the game, but we play trio as a comp game. And, like, I will never say anything set in stone until we see it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
And on a similar note, while we're just chatting here, how do you feel about DreamHack Anaheim getting busted by the new season the day before?
I can't believe I didn't even talk to Monster about this, because he actually had a great take that I'm gonna roll with. I'm stealing his take here. It's Anaheim's fault. I don't give a damn. It's DreamHack's fault, sorry, not Anaheim's fault.
What?
No, let me tell you why. It's DreamHack's fault. I don't give a damn, yeah? If you pay attention to the space in which you're trying to operate an event, you should know damn well you should never just plan an event near the end of a season, or near, like, so basically, like,
bro,
wait, listen, no, listen to me. I know what you're gonna say. Monster debated this. It should have been technically, when the event is, should have been 2 weeks after when a new season would have been. I don't think 2 weeks is long enough. I think if you're going to hold an event, knowing Epic's track record, and they've showed it just now, they've literally showed it and proven it, knowing Epic's track record, you should be hosting an event deeper into a season. so that you can avoid stuff like this. It shouldn't have to be that way because, like, as a, you know what I mean, as a TO, you shouldn't have to worry about the developers of the game just fucking your event completely, yeah. But just knowing Epic, like, come on, man, you should have been more careful about that. I feel bad for them. Like, I actually do feel bad. Hopefully something works out differently, but, like, come on. Like, I saw, like, Frey FN talk about how because of the way, like, the traveling schedule works, he's literally going to have to play an event on a new season and would have never played before. Like
GG's.
Like, GG's, man. GG's.
All right. Just quick note about that. The season should have ended after Winterfest, so the end of January. Then they pushed it out a month already, and it was already planned before that. Like, this Anaheim came out, I want to say September.
Yeah, it came out.
So before even the new chapter came out, and this is the longest season we've had ever. It's going to be about double the length of any of the seasons. So I don't think they could have ever known.
Still haven't completed any challenges yet, though.
Who cares?
Yeah, okay, but continue. You don't think they could have expected it to have dragged out this long?
Yeah, and knowing Epic, it's probably on purpose. Like,
yeah, promotion. Oh yeah.
The only reason I don't think it's on purpose is because DreamHack's not going to be streaming it, so who the hell is going to know?
True. No, but I heard that Anaheim will have a stream. I don't know where I heard that from. I know, like, the other one didn't, the one in the EU didn't, but I don't know why I heard Anaheim might have a stream or might have some form of broadcast. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but...
Players can stream, but that's to their own detriment because then they're taking their bandwidth away from the game and putting it towards streaming.
Should I tell you what okay, you know, I love to argue with you in general. I love to disagree with you, really. So, for the sake of conversation and argument's sake, as DreamHack, as a TO, when you saw Epic rescheduled the first time, the end of the season, would you not have been a bit like, let's ask them and see if there's potentially any chance that it's going to be rescheduled longer so that it could affect our event? Maybe they did have that communication and Epic, you know, lied to them or maybe deceived them in some sort of way, but, like, would you, like, agree with that sentiment of, like, maybe the first time it was delayed, DreamHack should have been like, hey guys, everything good? Like, how come you're delaying stuff? Is there any problems in the new season? Like, do we need to know anything since we're hosting an event within a month span from that time?
They could have done that. Doesn't mean that they could have changed anything. You probably already have the venue rented out. You've already sold tickets. You already probably worked out deals with hotels and different stuff like that. So it's not easy just to move an event of that size. And Epic may have also just been like, we are doing it.
Yeah, sorry.
What are you going to do?
I was thinking way too small picture. I forgot that, like, people have plane tickets booked, hotel tickets booked, the actual venue they're hosting it in. It costs so much to, like, rent venues out. Yeah, like, okay. You know what? I walk that back. I'm wrong. I am wrong. Epic just fucked over DreamHack completely. GG's. Like, GG's.
Hopefully it's all for the better.
Hopefully it'll be a good event, man. Where can the people find you, Taylor? Where can the people find you?
Well, right below at Twitter at Somebodysgun. And then you can also find me on YouTube at Somebodysgun. I like to do a quick but informational VOD review series where I point out some key pieces, anywhere from pro players to on the edge of becoming a top player, or even just your average Fortnite player, and turn what I see in the game to try and provide insights that can help players improve. So that's what I'll be doing. Actually going to be recording one after this. Should be coming out next week, and
okay,
looking forward to it.
Okay, guys, be sure to check out his YouTube channel and go give him a sub and comment. You know, hear from Leven on his next vid. It's been a pleasure having you, man. It's been a pleasure having you. So I'll talk to you soon. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, thanks, brother.
No problem. Well, guys, that is the end of the podcast today. stacked episode. A lot of people to talk to. A lot of information, a lot of good opinions. It was a great episode, man. Pretty smooth as well. I like that. It felt pretty smooth, went pretty smoothly. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Hopefully you guys had any graphics. Trust me, guys. You know, I got a lot more things I'm gonna try and add. Some things that, you know, I know you guys will like. Some things, you know, we'll see how it goes. We'll play around with it. But a lot more things I want to add to make the show even better for you guys. So, you know, if you got any recommendations, any ideas, you know, you got yourself, be sure to let me know. You know, at the end of the day, you know, I'm here to provide a good show for you guys to watch. And I hope you did enjoy today's show. If you did, though, you know, be sure to drop a follow on Twitch, man. You know, drop a follow on Twitch so you know when the podcast is live next. Follow me on Twitter so you can, you know, partake in all of the little things I do, right? The unpopular opinion segment I did with Monster earlier, that was, you know, things I've gotten from Twitter. And there's going to be other segments that I do as well. Other ideas for segments that I do. So, you know, just be sure to stay in tune with me. I appreciate all the support you guys give. Shout out to Quasar in the chat right now. Love that guy. He sorted me out with my new PC because this is why this is all happening. If you guys didn't know, I'm on a new PC. I don't think I've said it in a YouTube video yet. So I'm on a new PC, and it's great. It's great. It works pretty well. I'm able to stream and do the show for you. So yeah, all good, all great. Appreciate you guys hanging out today. I think what we're gonna do, we're gonna host Monsterdface as he was just on the show. We're gonna host Monster, and we're gonna end the stream. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Leven podcast, or the Leven show, I should say. Now I need to get used to that myself. See, I'm not even used to it myself. That's embarrassing. But hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Leven show. I'll see you guys again next week.